Hey everyone, this is Antriksha.
Hi, I'm Manya.
Hi Manya, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Antriksha?
I'm good as well.
It's so nice to be here.
Yes, I'm so glad that we are here doing this thing together and sharing our thoughts with everyone else.
Yes, same. Okay, so why don't you give everybody a little background so as to how we know each other and what this podcast is about?
So Manya and I have known each other since school. We've been school friends, and then we went to different colleges, different countries, and then we reconnected again and got closer through our shared interest in spirituality. And then we thought, why not share our thoughts and exchange our thoughts in a podcast together with you all? So here we are.
Yes, as Antriksha said, that we've gone through our separate spiritual journeys and we had some very beautiful and challenging moments in that spiritual awakening. And we would like to share them here with you through that podcast because everybody is in the healing era, and I hope you can gain some knowledge through this or get that comfort that you're not alone in this healing journey, because as Antriksha you can agree how difficult it gets once you go through that journey all by yourself. So yes, the mental health aspect has been talked about in the mainstream media for quite some time now, but the energetic aspect has just surged in 2020. And we hope that through this podcast, we can give you some knowledge, some guidance so as to how to navigate through your journey. We know there's a lot of information out there and it can get overwhelming sometimes. So we're going to keep it short and crisp and share our experiences.
Yes, absolutely. I think uh, I would love for us to share our individual understanding and relationship with spirituality first, a little bit to give us an idea, to give us a little bit of a background of our own journey. So I'm curious because I first kind of got to know your inclination towards spirituality, Manya, when you made your page on Instagram and you started sharing the wisdom, your journey, and everything else. So I was just curious to know like how it began for you, how did it come for you, and like
So I was leaving for university. It was around 2018. So my father nudged me to do this program. It was called like inner engineering or something.
oh, you've
So
done that.
yes, I have done that. Have you?
No, 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 but
Okay.
I've known people who have done that.
Uh-huh. So my father nudged me towards that. So when I was listening to all the wisdom, and it sparked something in my mind, like my mind kind of reset itself. I know that's why I also named the page, because that's something I experienced. And I was like, yes, why haven't I looked at life from this perspective? Why
Mhm.
have I living this life like that? And it was just the beginning. I hadn't even thought of what was coming, what was in store for me, what was coming for me. And when I went to university, I met so many people who triggered me, who for with whom I had to set boundaries or to call that part of out of me that I didn't like, the ugly parts of me. And now all these aspects were in front of me and I had to face them. I had to emerge like a phoenix from those, and that's how my spiritual journey started, because I was confronted with the ugly parts of my personality. So
It's always the low moments that
yeah.
guide us towards our own inner powers, I think.
Yes, that's true. That's when you soar towards the high. So now, what about you? I'm curious. I know you've been doing this for a long time. I've seen your YouTube videos and everything. How did all this start for you?
I think up until last year, I hadn't even used the word spiritual or spirituality, to be
Okay.
honest, because I mean, it wasn't in my mind that I'm turning spiritual or I have to learn spiritual concepts. For me, it was more about like being a good human being, being in that energy of goodness and love. And I think I've had gradual progression in my journey instead of like one big moment because I come from a family where I've seen my parents being not just my parents, the entire maternal lineage, paternal lineage, they've been like so giving in that sense. They've been like lovely human beings, and I've grown up in that environment. So when it comes to empathy and giving and helping others, I think that was something that I learned in my home. But then you get busy, you have your schools, you get, all into the rat race and everything else. So I kind of had that curiosity, I've had that consciousness, but then I was like, uh, it was all in my head. But then the funny thing is also, like, I remember when I was in grade 1 and there was this dance competition come up, and I was a part of it. And in my head, I didn't have the word purpose or like meaning, but my in my head, I had the conversation of like, can I do this? Is this my passion? And is this what everybody speaks about? The elders speaks about, and I was like, can I do this for the rest of my life? And there was a little whisper where I was like, no, no, no. And then I'm like, but I love to do this. And then I'm like, but this is not the only thing that I think is meant for me. And then I've grown up all through school years doing different things. And then I'm like cutting things out. I'm like, no, this is not for me, or there's got to be something more. And to my parents, to my teachers, I've been like, yeah, I'll become a doctor, I'll become an IAS officer, just to be in that, because I've wanted to serve others, I've wanted to be in that energy. But just the concept of 9 to 5 and dying and doing thing seemed very like superficial, or I don't know, there was something more that my heart knew was there.
Yeah.
And I kept going through that way. Then in middle school, I remember sharing with my brother that I was like, I think I'm getting obsessed with love. And he was like, who isn't? But then I couldn't explain it to him that I wasn't speaking about romantic love per se, but just the energy of love, like love towards other beings, love towards life, being in that like really good feeling of goodness and love every single day of my life. And then I think the major thing was where I fully started embodying was our final years of schooling, where I had a lot of cruel and bitter experiences, which made me kind of separate myself from others, from the society, where I was like, this is not my truth. There is a lot of projections, a lot of judgment, a lot of negative things going on around me, but I know that this is not me. And how do I live in this chaos? So in those moments, I think I started developing my connection with the universe, with God. I kind of like was like that, can I show these people that there is a part of me who wants to be loving, who wants to be kind, irrespective of whatever their own journeys and their own projections are? And I started kind of doing those things, or showing up to my life, to society, to people, with an energy of courage, strength, and love, because I've always been conscious about not snapping, even though at times I've wanted to like snap at people and be really angry. But I kind of do that privately. I have my grieving process, I have my healing process very privately. And whenever I step out of my room, I make it a point that I show up with complete love and kindness. So I think in those moments, I started separating myself from the world and my connection with God, because it was not between me and the society.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like between me and God. And if my consciousness is clear, if my truth is there, if my heart is clear, I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror with like a loving energy, with a feeling of like, yeah, I'm a good person on this planet. So it's like gradual progressions, little realizations that I've had at different points of my life that kind of like got me closer to spirituality, you can say. For me, it's just like, in simpler terms, I would say that anything that a person does with love and with absolute mindfulness and consciousness, being in the present moment, is what spirituality is for me.
That was really beautiful. Yeah, I love your definition of spirituality too. And yes, I have only heard stories where there was this one big moment, one big trauma that pushed people towards spirituality. But this is like something you were born to do. From your story, it looks like that's something it was your sole purpose from the very start. You were realizing it, you were looking at it, observing it. It's beautiful. It was really nice to hear that.
Like up until a few years back, I would say I've given the credit to like big moments or something that have triggered my awakening. But then when you uh, sit down and try to join all the dots of your journey, then I can like see the examples of where I've always had that craving, always had that curiosity, and it was just like shunned down because I was so engaged with everything material and everything that the society
Yeah.
was expecting out of me.
Yeah, true. And I agree with you. Like, spirituality should be about you and God, or you and divine and the source, because sometimes we put too many rules and too much pressure on people to behave in a certain way, do a certain thing, and the relationship, the essence of what spirituality and religion is, it just gets lost. It's just you and your relationship with God. Just like nobody can dictate how your relationship with your parents
For
should
sure.
be, how your relationship with your partner should be. I don't think anybody can dictate how your relationship with God should be. So maybe there is this thing that I'm not very fond of when it comes to religion. That's why maybe I was pushed towards spirituality. But for sure, I have taken so much, I have come back to religion as well, and you know um, realized why some practice are actually practiced. Because
Hmm.
before seeking that why, it was just like, oh, this is a practice, I don't care about it. What people today would call woke, I was woke. So these are practices, I don't know what's the significance of them. Maybe they could just donate some money to the needy instead. But now when I go back, I revisit those practices, they have like a deeper meaning behind it. There's depth behind it, and obviously it affects human beings and an energetic aura in certain ways. So what about you? How is it different for you, religion and spirituality?
I think I understand when people say that they make a distinction between spirituality and religion, because I've had friends who have had very rigid and forceful environment at home where their parents have forced religion on them and haven't allowed the space for them to discover it themselves. Uh, as for me, particularly in my personal experience, I'm grateful that my parents have been religious, but they haven't pulled us into performing a certain ritual or doing something. So they've allowed us to explore it ourselves. And having said that, I think we've just observed them and grown, and then we've had our own discoveries towards spirituality and religion. For me particularly, religion and spirituality goes together, and I'm so grateful that I come from a Hindu background, because I feel like the more I'm going into my spiritual journey, I'm realizing how all of it
Yeah,
is rooted
ties
in
together.
Hinduism.
Yeah,
Every
true.
like small little things like compassion, empathy, being good to others, being in service, in devotion to others, everything that I've learned, I feel like my parents have kind of passed on to us, and they have come to embody it through Hindu religion only. So for me, particularly, I feel it's the most liberating thing. And now I think I kind of like embrace that label that I am turning or not turning. I've always been a religious person, but there has been that sense of question. There has been that sense of curiosity as a child, which now as an adult, when I am into those things, when I am studying those things, I understand there's nothing that is like
Mm-hmm.
just written out or made in uh, or said in society. There's always like deeper meaning attached to
True.
things. And
Yeah,
until and unless we like study the actual text, study the actual process,
we
we can't
shouldn't
really
judge.
judge things. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that has been for me for in fact, I think every faith I've had friends, I got friends with other faiths as well, and I think every faith in its core stands for oneness
Love and
and love. Yeah. But it's just like the interpretation that has passed on, that has been like things have been misinterpreted by people and misguided. But at the core of each faith, I think they stand for love and oneness, and spirituality also stands for
yeah,
oneness only. It's like other things that make things
yeah. Like,
disturbing and
yeah,
chaotic.
like how you're like on the inside, because how you're on the inside really affects how you perceive the world, how you interpret stuff. So that's, I think, very important, because you have to work on your energetic level, your emotional level, to have a level of understanding of certain scriptures.
Also, I'm curious to know like how spirituality fits into your daily life. Now we're living in a material world, and we have our lives to our bills to pay, our jobs to look after, and so a lot of things. How does like spirituality squeeze into your daily routine? I'm curious to know about that a little bit.
So for me, I meditate without a doubt every morning. I don't wake up at 4:30, which is at the uh, peak time to meditate, 4:30 to 6:30. But before I start my day, I have this practice that I have been introduced to, meditation, Shambhavi Mahamudra. So I do that every morning. um, so that's one thing. And obviously looking and talking to people out of kindness, and that's that's how I practice spirituality every day. Because I don't know if you, I mean, I'm sure you know because we've been friends, but I was very self-centered, I was very selfish in school days. I was
No, I
very
don't think.
self-centered.
I didn't think that of
Oh,
you.
I don't think that I took people's emotions into consideration. It was always me, and this perspective has really shifted. And now, before just snapping out a judgment or getting angry, I do listen to people, and each and every interaction I have, I try to answer it from a place of love, from a place of kindness. So, like, when I just went to Italy for my birthday, so I took a solo trip. So I did have a couple of incidents where there was like a little racism there, but I didn't like let myself ruin my holiday or my day just because of that one incident. And I think that's because of spirituality. Otherwise I would have thought about that one moment all day long or throughout the vacation, and it would have ruined everything. So these slight tweakings in my mental health, my energetic health, has this is how I practice spirituality every day, apart from the spiritual tools I use. So what about you? How do you incorporate them?
I love that. Love that. I think we shouldn't be like guilt tripping ourselves for the people that we've been in school, because
Yeah.
I have known a lot of people who have mentioned to me that they have craved the guidance. They've had the desire to kind of be a better human being or like
Mm-hmm.
know things, and but they haven't received the guidance, and that is uh, kids just do whatever they are conditioned to by the society, by the adults around them. But as we become an adult, I think the accountability has to come in, and I'm so proud of you for taking charge of your life and coming closer to who you actually want to be in this world. It's like nobody less people have that courage. I've seen people who come to me in my DMs and be like, we want to shift, we want to transform, but then they're like gone in a second. So that
Oh,
gives me the idea of like that they don't even have uh, a care for their own self, leave about service to other, leave about their purpose to the world, but just about their self. They just not, I don't know, they're just not bothered about it, or they're not concerned about it. And it takes courage to kind of be out there and take your powers back and try to be a good human being for everybody around us.
true. Yeah. No,
uh,
that's very true. Because a
and
lot of
having
people. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, no, no, you share.
I was just saying that a lot of people think that spiritual practitioners or healers have this wand, and they approach them and they're gonna just say, "Oh yeah, now you're good. Tomorrow your life will be like totally different. You're gonna swim in money." I have seen a lot of people who expect that. For like they think we spiritual healers are some kind of practitioners or something that they're gonna change their life. But the truth is, you are in charge of your own life, and you have to take steps, do the hard
For
work,
sure.
do the work to change your life. Nobody else can. And if somebody like really tries to help you, sometimes that's also unhealthy because they destroy themselves in the process. But we're gonna come to that later.
Absolutely. I think humans have to be accountable for their own lives. As a coach, as a healer, as a professional in the field, I think we can only be guides, we can only be mentors. But at the end of the day, you got to have that desire from within to show up
Mm-hmm.
for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, Antriksha,
Coming back to like my rituals
yeah.
thing, I don't think I had particular rituals in mind, but I think my first consistent practice was gratitude, daily gratitude. I think I started it back in like 2018 maybe, and I have done it like every night since then. So like just when I'm about to sleep, I recall my entire day and kind of remind myself of all the highs, all the things that went right that day before, like even if it's for like 10 seconds or 15 seconds, I do that. So So I think that has been like a part of me and my routine. Apart from that, I think journaling and ritual. I've shared the ritual, but I don't think I've really shared it with public ever.
Mm-hmm.
The ritual is like a personal me time for me in the beginning of the day or at night. So, like 1 hour, and I haven't been consistent with it in this month because I've been shifting and pivoting. But then, ritual is something like a time for me where I like set the environment, plug in some music, like some without lyrics, some like nature, rain sounds, or jazz piano, and I light some incense, light some candles, light a diya, set up my altar, do little fun things to get into the zone. And then I do some intuitive movement, or I sit down for meditation before I journal to get myself like grounded. And then I kind of like, even like logically, you get yourself in that zone where you're quiet, you've quietened your mind, and then you can like see where you're going in your life and everything that comes to your mind, and you're writing. So I like write all of that down. And
Mm-hmm.
like spiritually also, when I'm in that zone, sometimes I do flame meditation also. I look at the flames. So like that gives me like, I don't know, some insights, some things that come to me regarding my life or life in general, and I write it all down in my journal. While having like some herbal teas, I've been obsessed with them since COVID, I think, because we were at home and we were like trying different immunity drinks. So I kind of got into the herbal parts of it. So I've started making those teas since then, and journaling. So that has been one thing I think for me. Other than that, I think when I have like really busy days, so I snatch moments for myself, like separating myself from the world and really like soaking in the energy. As like I remember back in college, we were having a debating event, and I was like surrounded with all bunch of like there were like different groups sitting, and everyone was having really healthy conversations. So I like took a moment to just like feel that gratitude of being in that space with such beautiful human beings. And I've done that like when I'm out for a drink, for a dinner. I like when people are taking pictures, I take a moment to myself. I like to snatch that moment to myself and be like, I'm really enjoying this life and I'm like really grateful for it. And then there are breathwork practices, I think, is like we can do it right now also together. It's
Yes.
like I invite you to like close your eyes, take a deep breath with me together into your
Mm-hmm.
belly. Feel your belly expanding, the biggest breath of your day so far. Hold it in. 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Slow and deep exhale, longer than your inhale. Keep exhaling, keep exhaling, keep exhaling. Beautiful. Come back to the space with me. So
That
this
was
is
really,
this is like a
really
moment of loving awareness that we managed to like snatch from the
yeah.
middle of the day, where we are like having a busy day, we're prepping for this. And then I like to have these moments every now and then, just like sweet little personal moments to myself.
I think that's really nice. One, it gets you back to the present moment, and you realize how much important it is to enjoy life right now. And secondly, when you talked about the alone time, yes, that's beautiful. That's really nice that you take some time out to be alone, because I've heard that a lot of people can't do that, and it's not very intuitive for people to have alone time. People cannot spend time alone with their thoughts, which is, I think, that's not a very good thing to do for because
I
it's
mean, that's the
important.
biggest thing. Like, you have to spend your entire life not with your family, not with your friends, not with your partners, but with yourself. And if you are restless being with yourself, there's an issue that needs to be sorted.
Exactly. I mean, if you can't spend time with you, then like you are not a good company for yourself, then no company would look good to you.
Yeah, how
So
would you expect people to like love you and be there for you and like treat you nicely if you
can't
yourself
love
don't
yourself.
feel that for yourself? Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. It was really nice hearing about your rituals. Yeah, like that's a lot, but
I
it's
have to
nice
say, I'm
that
not consistent with
habits.
them, but every time I'm
Yeah,
like get into the flow and do it consistently, and
yeah.
then I'm like, why did I skip those things
Drop
in the
them.
first place?
But then it's nice that you don't quit completely. You,
Yeah,
whenever you
that's
stop, you
that's
start again.
that
That's the
thing. Yeah, that
important thing.
thing has been there.
Yes,
Yes.
that's the important thing.
Okay, so I think uh, I'm also like curious to know, how do you feel like in your general life? What are the changes and the transformation that you've experienced while you have started embodying more of who you are and this entire
Mhm.
spiritual journey? What changes, what
I think the
differences have you
biggest
observed?
change I have observed is that I be now. I just be. I don't have to constantly do something. I don't have to constantly think about something. I can just sit on grass and take a deep breath, and that doesn't make me feel like, oh no, I'm wasting my time. What am I doing? I could have done something more
Yes.
productive. That's the realization that I've had, that just doing, and filling your diary with all these appointments is not how you need to live life. I know that that's how life was lived few years back, or like when I was born, like around 20th century. I was born 20th, like ending of the 20th century. That was like a whole different time. Our society was going through different things, but that's something I had to unlearn now, that yes, I don't have to just constantly be on this survival mode. I can just take a breath. I can appreciate what God has given us, the birds, the animals. And I know it's going to sound weird to some of the people, but the connection with animals, forget
Hmm.
about other human beings, but animals, it just lights up your heart. You don't want to kill even a mosquito. Like when I was younger, it felt fun to step on ants. I don't know why I'm smiling, but it was now I think that's such a gruesome thing to do. Like why would I kill like these tiny living organism, even if they don't mean something to me. They have life, and that life is an incredible gift, and I am no one to take that away from them. So this realization has changed my whole perspective, how I do things, how I eat, or what I wear. In that like I am no one, I'm not entitled to anybody's life just to um, make me look luxurious or have give me a better lifestyle. So that has completely changed after my spiritual awakening.
It's beautiful
And
how like our sensitivity heightens
yeah,
when we are connected with the universe, with nature, with life, and it kind of like makes us feel for everyone around us, every little being around us. So it's beautiful to hear that.
thank you. What about you? How was it for you? What
I
transformation
think
did you
I would
experience?
say I have all through like my school years, I've
Mhm.
done things, I've achieved the milestones and I've done all those things, but deep inside my heart I've always been like, will I ever be satisfied? Will I ever experience that fulfillment, that blissful state where I'm like, ah, and like really like in a joyful state naturally? And I would say more and more I've embodied who I am and who I want to be in this world more and more. Like with every little experience I've like really soaked in and really embodied those things. I think I have come to a place where majority of the times, of course externally there are a lot of things and everybody goes through a lot of things, there are a lot of things that we are stressed about in life, there are a lot of things that are not going right, but then that internal peace, that internal lightness, that internal joyfulness and blissful state has been uh, I've come to a place where I've created that space, or
Mhm.
majority of the time in 24 hours, I am in that state. So that is something where like I feel lighter and joyful in my overall life. So I think that's there.
Yeah, that's how one should experience life, being joyful, being ecstatic. Yeah, exactly.
Also, like there has been a lot of uh, conversation about spiritual awakenings, like those moments, and I'd love for us to touch upon that. What is your understanding of a spiritual awakening? Have you experienced one and how did it go for you?
I think for me, spiritual awakening is like an ongoing process. So it just happens throughout your life until you achieve enlightenment. I haven't like done a deep dive of after what happens after enlightenment, but um, yeah. So for me, spiritual awakening is something that you are evolving, and now you've awakened to the next step, next process, and you just getting closer to being this all loving being that's all light and is full of love. So yeah, my first spiritual awakening that I was triggered during my university was very intense, was very, I wouldn't say dark, because at the time it felt dark. At the time it felt like somebody has
It
pushed me
is dark
in this
once you like
water.
come out of it,
Yeah.
then it becomes light, but it is dark, you can say that.
Yeah, somebody just like pushed me in this water body, and I wasn't expecting that at all. But gave me these life jackets and all these tools that so that I could get myself out of there. So it's like it was something that pushed me out of my comfort zone, but there was protection all around me. So I'll share that how I was protected. Maybe in later episodes, maybe not right now, but I would like to. But I don't think right now is the
Because I
time.
think the question, I became curious. The question that came to my mind was like, how did you navigate, and did you receive any help? How was like, how did you come out of it? If you want to share it right now, we can dive into it, or we can uh,
Yeah,
wait for later
okay,
episodes.
maybe like I'll share half later, half I can do today. So, as I said, that I have life jackets around me. So, um, I had these friends. I didn't know them. I was going through like really tough time in 2019. I think it was weird and tough for everybody because I've heard a lot of stuff about this year. But I had just met them in like February, and I was going through it at that time, and I didn't know who these people were, but they were still like there for me. Um, Supported me, and yes, I did go to therapy. I did get some guidance, but it wasn't for me. I didn't get the guidance I wanted to feel better, because I don't know, there is this thing where people say, oh yeah, that's normal to feel that way, it's common to feel that way. But I wanted to feel better, I wanted to feel joyful, I didn't want to stay in that. Maybe they were trying to just validate my emotions or whatever, but I didn't feel that I was heard. So yeah, so my friends really helped me. So that's where I am so thankful to the universe that they didn't have to, they didn't know who I was, they were just some people who came into my life like a month ago, but they were there for me. And
That's how
then
universe supports you.
yeah, I know. And then it's this is very interesting. I didn't want to do an exchange, so I did apply for exchange, but I was like very um, not excited about it. I didn't want to go abroad. But when I was going through all that, the universe pushed me to go on that exchange, and I came here for 6 months to Switzerland from like my where my home university was. I came here, I did 6 months here, and that was the time. So there's gap between the semester that ended there and the semester when it starts here in September. So there was like a 2 month gap. So I was just on my bed. I didn't have anything to do, so I could just concentrate on myself, and I didn't have to push my mental health and keep it on the back burner. I could just focus on my mental health, my journey, and do the things that I thought were necessary for me at that time, whether it was just eating food or dancing at any time or just going out or swimming or staying near water body, anything, because now I was the priority. And then I joined some creative, I visited some hobbies that I loved in my childhood, so that I could be reminded of them better in simpler times, and that helped so much as well. So I did some acting classes, and I joined fencing, which was like a new hobby, but it was something I wanted to try. But yeah, it felt really good for me to do that at that time. I think that was like a really long. I never expected that I would share that, because I haven't, but it felt really good to
That's
share
the
that.
flow.
Yeah.
It's all welcome here. That's the flow. I love the flow. And it's like I love how you have nurtured your inner child, and you have like uh, taken out time for yourself, for the hobbies, for the interests. Because when we don't do that, we like to sit in our pity party. We kind of get into the victim mindset, or like we get bored and we look for drama.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful how and I appreciate that you've taken out time for yourself in that manner.
Thank you. So, what about you? How did you navigate through those times?
I think for me, first I'll say a little bit about like spiritual awakening is like you're having a fairy tale, you're like going about your life, having like a normal day, and then there are sudden turn of events where like things are taken away from you. It could be you losing out a job, you losing someone close to you, and whatever. Like a low moment comes into your life, and your perception really opens up to a newer dimension. You start to question things of like why things are happening, or who, where is the guidance, what do I do, all sorts of why starts to happen. And I think that's how I see a spiritual awakening is. And then it's it's a little chaotic, and then it's also liberating at the same time, after a few days, after a few weeks or months, I would say. Because then you're like, oh, I can, nobody's really bothered. Like I can live my life on my own terms, I can do things that really fills my heart, I can do things that really matters to me, and
Mhm.
everything else is just like going about. And you can have a separation from the world for yourself. I think
Yeah.
so that is like the spiritual awakening moments where people are all of a sudden. And I think majority of the people across the globe have had that moment during COVID, because we were like
Mhm.
shut down and we were forced to think about where we were leading our lives. So I think COVID has been like a big a moment for
Shake up.
everyone globally. Yeah. So
Yeah.
for me, I think I had to like navigate those moments on my own. And I did
Mhm.
like trial and error. I've learned things from trial and error, because I was like, yeah, I want to be this person. But then my teachers are saying something else. My friends are saying something else. Everyone has different opinion. But then I have kind of like I grew my trust on life and on myself by taking like small decisions from my heart. So I think there I developed the trust. And I think then I started learning a lot of the things online. I started taking mentorships and workshops. And finally, when I was taking bigger certifications, it was more of like I could feel those things in my heart, because I have like done the trials and I know what things work, what doesn't work. And it came around very beautifully for me. But then yeah, I would say I kept my heart as the decision maker. And I think that's what worked for me.
That's really nice to hear, and I'm sorry that nobody was around, but I know you're so strong that you navigated on your own. You're so brave.
You
But
think that, but then I think uh, I was sharing this with my mom
mhm.
last month only about some things that have happened in the past, and she was like, "We had no clue," and I was like, "Nobody had the clue. I don't let people know what's
Yeah,
happening behind the scenes." But then I told her that you already laid a very strong foundation for us kids, and
yeah,
you've given us that love, you've given us that safe space, and I didn't want to trouble you back then, but like I
yeah.
kind of like I kind of like made sure that she's not worried. But then, of course, it takes courage, because I've had the judgment, I've had the projection of people like, oh, things
Mhm.
happen with Antriksha, and she's like, people are mean to her, but she's always kind. That's the way she's built, and I'm like, no,
Mhm.
that's not the way I'm built. But it
I
takes like
would say
effort
exactly. Yeah.
and conscious effort every day.
Yeah.
But that's something like for me, it's like I have to look into my eyes at the end of every day and be
Mhm.
absolutely proud of the version that I see there,
Yeah.
and that keeps me like going and motivated.
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, I can relate to that telling your mother aspect that even same, I had the same experience that my mom like started crying, why didn't you tell us you're going through this? I'm like, I didn't want to trouble you and I can navigate it on my own. You don't have to cry or take it on yourself. You don't feel guilty that you weren't there for me. You've been there for me for like a very long time and I can do this myself. Yeah, exactly. And of course, where you said, how people's projections or people's images of you, and you should be that way. I think that's happening a lot nowadays. People are trying to fit in, suppressing their unique self, suppressing their gifts, just so that they can adjust to the image of what the people around them think of who they are or what they do, which is, I don't think that's gonna work in next coming years, because individuality would be big. So it will be what unique gift or can you offer to the world, what unique talents can you or wisdom you can offer to the world, and how you fit into the bigger picture, in the sense like what puzzle piece are you that completes the picture. Not that this one standards that have been set by the society and you have to change yourself to fit in, but you have to show your authentic self and the world would incorporate you. I think that's the change that the coming years would be making, we'll be making in the society, in the system.
Yeah, I think we are moving in that direction. And I think part of the reason is that because of social media, there's a lot of judgment, comparison, and there's also this lack of empathy and sensitivity because people are like, they don't know, like, you will never meet a person. So we can easily, like, uh, throw around our opinions and judgments and be like that. Or there are like peak moments that people share on social media, and everybody gets into that feeling of like they're having a great life and we are not. And there's like everything. I think social media can be used both ways, but most of us are not realizing the power that we can hold over it and how we can utilize it for our greater good.
Yeah, true. Right now it is holding power over us, so like we have to change that, we have to reverse the roles. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, how do you feel about it? I think we talked a lot today. I hope like people get something out of this, and what
Yes,
do
I
you
think
think?
there's quite so much that we have shared, and about our journeys, about spirituality, about our backgrounds. Is there anything else like that's coming to your mind, your heart, or we can
No,
like wrap
not
this
particularly
session?
right now. Yeah, I don't think. But yes, I do have a lot to share, but I think that will be in the coming episode. So I hope you guys stay with us. So, Antiksha, would you like to say anything to our audience?
I think I feel really grateful. I'm a people's person. I love to connect. I love to share, and I'm so grateful to be here and looking forward to everything that we talk, that we share in the coming episodes as well. So stay
Yes,
tuned for that.
I know this will be a nice spiritual community with the divine quantum relationships, as we
Yes.
call it in the spiritual community. Okay, then. Bye, everyone. See you in the next
Bye,
episode.
everyone. Have a great day.